Athena, goddess of wisdom. Born from Zeus, Athena represents strategy, justice, and skill, guiding heroes and cities through intelligence, discipline, and reasoned order. She was not born the way other gods were born. There was no cradle, no quiet dawn, no gentle hands lifting her into the world. Athena arrived in thunder and clarity, fully awake, already knowing who she was. From the very first breath she drew, she was thought made solid, wisdom given shape, strategy sharpened into will. Athena is the daughter of Zeus, ruler of sky and storm, but her story begins before she ever saw the light. Long before her name echoed across temples and cities, Zeus fell in love with Metis, a being older than Olympus itself. Metis was not admired for beauty or softness. She was sought for insight, foresight, and the dangerous gift of knowing what comes next. To be near Metis was to feel the future pressing against the present. The old powers whispered a warning to Zeus. Metis, they said, would bear 2 children. The first would be a daughter unlike any other. The second would be a son powerful enough to overthrow his father. Zeus had learned the cost of ignoring prophecies. He had defeated his own father to claim the sky, and he would not allow history to repeat itself. So he made a choice that shaped the destiny of gods and mortals alike. Zeus swallowed Metis. It was not an act of cruelty alone, but of fear and control. He believed that by consuming Metis, he could contain her wisdom, prevent the prophecy, and make foresight his own. But wisdom cannot be silenced, and creation cannot be undone. Metis continued to think within him, to shape and sharpen ideas inside the mind of the king of gods. And in time, she gave birth. Zeus was struck by a pain unlike any he had ever known. Not the pain of wounds or war, but the pressure of thought itself. His head thundered as if the sky had turned inward. The gods gathered, uncertain and alarmed. Some say it was Hephaestus who split Zeus's skull with a precise strike, not in violence, but in release. Others say the head opened of its own will, unable to contain what was forming inside. From that opening stepped Athena. She emerged fully grown, clad in gleaming armor, spear in hand, shield bright with power. There was no cry of confusion, no search for balance. Athena stood tall and steady, eyes clear, mind already alive with understanding. She did not rage, she did not boast. She looked upon the world and recognized it. The sound that followed her birth was not thunder, but awe. Athena was wisdom, but not the kind that sits quietly in shadows. She was intelligence in action, thought tested against reality. She embodied strategy rather than chaos, reason rather than impulse. Where other gods ruled through emotion or desire, Athena ruled through clarity. She was not bound to softness, nor to cruelty. She was balance sharpened into purpose. Her armor was not made for destruction alone. It was protection, discipline, preparedness. Upon her shield she bore the aegis, a symbol of authority and insight, often said to carry the power to terrify enemies not through violence, but through the certainty of defeat. At her side, an owl watched silently, eyes wide and unblinking, seeing what others missed. Athena took her place on Mount Olympus, but she was never fully confined there. Unlike gods who demanded worship from afar, Athena walked among cities, stood at the edges of battlefields, lingered in workshops and council halls. She was present wherever decisions mattered. She was not a goddess of war in the way Ares was. Ares thrived on chaos, bloodshed, and fury. Athena despised waste. To her, conflict was a problem to be solved, not a fire to be fed. She valued preparation, timing, and restraint. Victory earned through thought was always superior to victory won through brute force. This difference shaped her reputation among mortals. Warriors prayed to Athena not for rage, but for clear minds and steady hands. Kings sought her guidance before making laws. Builders honored her before laying foundations. She became the patron of crafts, weaving, architecture, and skill of every kind that required patience and intelligence. Athena's wisdom extended beyond battle and labor into the realm of justice. She believed that societies thrived not through fear, but through order shaped by reason. Where chaos ruled, she offered structure. Where ignorance spread, she brought learning. Her presence was often subtle, felt more than seen, guiding choices toward stability. Of all the cities in the mortal world, none was closer to Athena's heart than Athens. The land was rocky, the soil thin, and the future uncertain. But Athena saw potential where others saw limits. When the gods competed for patronage over the city, each offered a gift. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, bringing forth salt water, a symbol of power and dominance. Athena knelt instead, pressing her hand into the earth, and from it grew the olive tree. The olive was not loud or violent. It did not inspire fear, but it promised food, oil, trade, light, and endurance. The people chose Athena, and in return she gave them her name, her protection, and her guidance. Athens became a city of thinkers, builders, and lawmakers, reflecting the mind of its goddess. From the Acropolis, her presence watched over the city. The Parthenon rose not merely as a temple, but as a statement. Athena Parthenos, Athena the Virgin, stood as a symbol of independence and clarity. She did not belong to any husband. She was whole in herself, defined by purpose rather than relationship. Athena's virginity was not about rejection of love, but devotion to focus. She chose not to be distracted, not to be claimed or confined. Her power came from self-mastery. In a world ruled by desire and rivalry, Athena stood apart, untouched by impulse, guided by reason. Yet she was not cold. Athena could be fiercely protective of those who earned her favor. Heroes who respected wisdom over arrogance found her at their side. She guided inventors, advised rulers, and stood beside champions who listened as much as they fought. To be favored by Athena was to be tested, challenged, and sharpened. She had little patience for pride. Mortals who claimed superiority over the gods, or who dismissed wisdom in favor of ego, often found themselves corrected. Athena's lessons were rarely gentle, but they were always precise. She did not destroy for pleasure. She corrected imbalance. Her surroundings reflected her nature. Athena was often found among stone halls and open skies, places where clarity thrived. She favored heights and strong walls, spaces built with intention. Looms and forges, libraries and councils, all felt her presence. Wherever skill was practiced with respect, Athena lingered. Unlike many gods, Athena did not demand constant worship. She demanded understanding. Those who approached her blindly found little comfort. Those who approached with curiosity and humility found guidance beyond measure. From Olympus, she observed the mortal world not as a distant ruler, but as a strategist watching a living board. Every city, every choice, every alliance mattered. She saw patterns unfolding across generations. Where others reacted, Athena anticipated. This was her gift and her burden. She knew that wisdom does not prevent suffering, it only helps one navigate it. Athena did not promise easy lives. She offered tools to endure, to adapt, to build something lasting amid uncertainty. Her favor was not comfort, but capability. In time, her influence would shape heroes, wars, trials, and transformations. But even in the beginning, standing fresh from her birth, Athena understood one truth above all others. Power fades, fury burns out, desire shifts, but wisdom, once planted, grows. And Athena, goddess of wisdom, was prepared to tend it. Athena did not settle into Olympus the way the others did. Some gods arrived like storms, loud, restless, forever announcing themselves. Others drifted in like perfume, leaving everyone a little dazed and unsure what they had promised. Athena arrived like a door opening onto a bright room. Suddenly you could see the shape of things. Suddenly you could tell what mattered. Olympus, for all its gold and cloud-marbled grandeur, was a place of tension. The thrones were spaced like boundaries. The laughter often came with an edge. Every banquet carried hidden bargains. Every compliment was sometimes a challenge wearing a smile. Athena noticed it all, not because she enjoyed suspicion, but because she understood systems. Olympus was a system of pride, of alliances, of wounds that never quite healed. And she, born from prophecy and prevention, understood something else. Zeus had tried to outsmart fate. He had tried to swallow the future. Athena was the proof that the future still speaks. In the earliest days after her arrival, the gods watched Athena carefully, as if she were a new constellation whose meaning had not yet been interpreted. Some admired her immediately. Others felt uneasy. It is difficult to stand near someone who sees through you without raising her voice. Hera, queen of Olympus, held her gaze the longest. Hera was not ignorant. She was not weak. She was power-shaped into ceremony and law, the keeper of vows, the guardian of thrones. But when Athena appeared, born from Zeus alone, sprung from his mind without a mother's hands in the world, Hera felt something tighten inside her, not because Athena had done anything wrong, but because the very story of Athena's birth sounded like an argument. Athena did not mock Hera. She did not challenge her openly. She simply existed, calm and complete, and that calmness made the palace feel different. In halls where temper ruled and jealousy sparked like flint, Athena's presence was an unwelcome mirror. Still, Athena did not seek conflict. She sought purpose. She walked the high terraces of Olympus where the air tasted like cold light, where clouds formed and unformed in slow, dreamy currents. She watched eagles circle far below, watched winds roll across the world like invisible rivers. She listened to the murmurs of the gods as one listens to a city at night, hearing patterns in the noise, and she began to shape her own realm, not a kingdom of land or sea, not a domain fenced by borders, but a dominion of skill. Athena's power gathered wherever hands worked with intelligence. In the bright, clanging forge of Hephaestus, where sparks flew like angry stars, Athena found a language she respected. Hephaestus, the master of metal and invention, was not admired for beauty. His strength was not the kind that lifted mountains, but the kind that transforms raw stone into an instrument, raw ore into a blade, raw thought into a mechanism that changes the world. Athena and Hephaestus understood each other in a way that surprised the rest of Olympus. They both valued craft, not the shallow craft of trickery, but the deep craft of making, of bringing order and function into existence. Athena watched Hephaestus work and recognized discipline. Hephaestus watched Athena and recognized focus. In those moments, Olympus felt less like a battlefield of egos and more like a workshop of ideas. Athena's shield, her spear, her symbols, none of it was decoration. Each piece had meaning. Each piece had function. The owl, the olive branch, the steady gaze beneath her helm. These were not random. They were the language of her identity, observation, endurance, and clarity. Yet even as Athena built her reputation as the goddess of wisdom, she found herself constantly contrasted against another presence, Ares. Ares was war in its rawest form, loud, hungry, and impatient. He loved the moment of impact, the thrill of fear, the surge of chaos that made rules meaningless. When Ares walked into a hall, the air seemed to fill with heat. When Athena walked in, the air sharpened. Ares mocked strategy because he didn't need it to feel powerful. Athena disdained his recklessness because she saw its cost. Their arguments were not merely personal. They were two philosophies colliding, and mortals noticed. When humans prayed for victory, they did not always know what kind of victory they were asking for. Some begged for Ares, strength, fury, intimidation. Others begged for Athena, planning, protection, survival. Athena did not deny war existed. She did not pretend the world could be saved by soft words. but she believed that if battle must happen, it should serve a purpose. It should end something, not feed itself forever. That belief would draw her toward the human world more and more. From Olympus, the earth looked like a living mosaic. Mountains like old scars, seas like moving mirrors, cities like clusters of glowing embers at night. Athena watched those cities. She watched how they grew, how they argued, how they built walls and broke them, how they raised children and taught them songs and laws. And she chose to step closer. Athena's connection to Athens was not a simple patronage like a signature on a treaty. It was a relationship. The city was imperfect, restless, ambitious. It loved debate. It loved contest. It could be noble one day and cruel the next, but it was alive with thought. It was alive with the hunger to understand. Athena recognized that hunger like kinship. She walked the Acropolis when it was still more rock than temple, when the wind smelled of salt from the nearby sea and the stones were warmed by relentless sun. She watched workers carve foundations, watched early shrines rise with humble offerings. She listened as elders argued about fairness, as young people dreamed about greatness. And she planted her olive tree not only as a gift, but as a lesson. The olive tree does not rush. It does not shout. It endures drought. It endures wind. It grows slowly, steadily, becoming more valuable over time. The olive's fruit becomes oil, and oil becomes light, food, trade, and warmth. It was a symbol of Athena's wisdom. The greatest gifts are the ones that keep giving quietly. In the mortal world, Athena's presence often arrived as a moment of insight. A general staring at a map suddenly sees the enemy's weakness. A builder struggling with an arch suddenly understands how to balance the weight. A judge listening to two angry voices suddenly recognizes the truth beneath the noise. Athena did not always appear as a glowing figure on a mountaintop. More often, she appeared as the sudden alignment of thought. And when she did appear, it was never random. She chose those who listened. Heroes, especially, became the stage upon which Athena's wisdom shone. Not because she needed praise, but because heroes were the points where fate and choice collided most fiercely. A hero could change a city's future with a single decision. A hero could either become a lesson in arrogance or a lesson in growth. Athena preferred the second. She favored those who respected intelligence, those who understood that bravery without thinking is merely danger. She did not demand perfection from mortals, because mortals were not built for perfection. She demanded effort, she demanded awareness, and she demanded humility. One of Athena's greatest gifts, and sometimes her sharpest weapon, was the ability to test pride. In the world of Greek myth, pride was not a small flaw. Pride was a fire that could consume families, cities, even entire generations. Athena knew pride's pattern. She knew how it started, with a small victory, a growing confidence, a quiet belief that the rules no longer applied. So Athena corrected it when she could, sometimes with guidance, sometimes with consequence, but always with intention. In the courts of gods, Athena herself became a symbol of measured judgment. She was not quick to punish. She was quick to observe. And when she acted, it was often to restore balance, because balance mattered to her more than being liked. Her relationship with Poseidon remained one of the most delicate tensions in Olympus and on Earth. Poseidon, lord of seas, was not accustomed to being refused. His gifts were dramatic, springs erupting from stone, storms rising at a whim, ships either blessed or shattered with the flick of his mood. When Athens chose Athena's olive tree over his saltwater strike, Poseidon did not forget. The sea remembers. For generations, sailors spoke Poseidon's name with both reverence and fear. And yet, in the city of Athens, Athena's name was spoken with pride, her festivals loud with celebration. The rivalry between the two deities was not constant warfare, but a simmering edge in the background of many stories, a reminder that even gods could be wounded by choice. Athena did not gloat. She simply continued to build. She inspired architects to raise columns that felt like frozen music. She inspired potters to paint stories onto clay, turning simple vessels into memory. She inspired lawmakers to shape rules that could hold a city together when emotion threatened to tear it apart. Athena loved not just the finished results, but the process, the careful thinking, the repeated practice, the steady improvement. This made her different from gods who demanded worship for being powerful. Athena demanded respect for becoming capable. Her temples were not only places of prayer, they were declarations. They said, "Here, in this city, we value learning. We value planning. We value the kind of strength that holds a society together." Her sacred spaces often carried the smell of oil and stone, incense and sun-warmed marble. Offerings to Athena were frequently practical. Crafted objects, woven cloth, polished shields, the tools of skill. Even her worship had a tone of work rather than surrender. And still, Athena remained a goddess, immortal, immense, far beyond human scale. There were moments when mortals glimpsed that true scale, and it shook them. Because Athena's wisdom was not merely cleverness, it was cosmic. She understood patterns that spanned lifetimes. She saw how a single lie in one generation could become a war in the next. She saw how a leader's vanity could become a city's famine. She saw how fear could become tradition, and tradition could become a prison. So when Athena intervened, she often did so at the hinge points of history, when one decision could swing the future like a door. One of the most famous examples of Athena's guidance is tied to a hero known for his mind as much as his courage: Odysseus. Odysseus was not the strongest warrior, he was not the most beautiful, nor the most favored by fortune. But he had something Athena admired: adaptability. He could bend without breaking. He could think in layers. He could survive not by overpowering every obstacle, but by understanding it. Athena's affection for Odysseus was not romantic. It was recognition, like a teacher recognizing a student who finally sees the point. Through Odysseus, Athena demonstrated a crucial aspect of her character. She did not simply reward the obedient. She rewarded the intelligent. And she punished the foolish arrogance that refused to learn. Even among heroes, Athena's favor was not safe, because Athena did not flatter. If a hero grew prideful, if he began to mistake Athena's guidance for his own greatness, she could step back and let reality speak. Athena's absence could be as instructive as her presence. It was a hard kind of love, but it was love nonetheless, a desire to see mortals grow rather than merely win. In Olympus, some gods found this attitude strange. They saw mortals as toys, worshippers, servants, or nuisances. Athena saw them as builders of the world. Yes, fragile, yes, flawed, but capable of remarkable things when guided by wisdom. Perhaps that was why she never fully belonged to Olympus's endless feasts. She belonged to the places where decisions were made. She belonged to the drafting of plans, to the shaping of tools, to the quiet moment before action. She belonged to the breath a warrior takes before lifting a shield, not to rage, but to focus. She belonged to the hands of a weaver threading pattern into cloth, turning chaos into design. She belonged to the voice of a judge trying to find fairness in a crowded room. Athena's surroundings were not only marble and clouds, not only temples and thrones. Her surroundings were minds at work. And yet, even Athena could not escape the storms of Olympus forever, because the gods were family, and family, even among immortals, is complicated. Zeus looked at Athena with pride, sometimes genuine, sometimes possessive. He saw her as proof of his power, proof that he could create without needing anyone. Athena saw Zeus as her father, but she did not mistake him for perfect. She understood the weight of his rule, and she understood the risks of his ego. Sometimes she advised him, sometimes she opposed him, but always she calculated the consequences. To challenge Zeus directly was to invite thunder. To guide Zeus subtly was to steer the sky without breaking it. Athena learned to do the second. In that, she became not only the goddess of wisdom, but the steady hand behind Olympus's survival. She did not always take credit. She did not always seek praise. She simply moved pieces into place so the world would not collapse under divine temper. Mortals may have built Athena's temples, but Athena helped build something even larger. The idea that thought can be a form of power. A spear can break, a wall can fall, a throne can be stolen, but a well-made plan can outlast the strongest enemy. That truth would echo through countless stories, through trials and voyages, through wars and reconciliations, through the rise and fall of kings who either listened to wisdom or mocked it. And Athena, watching from the heights of Olympus and the stones of Athens alike, remained what she had been at her birth, a clear-eyed presence in a loud world, a steady flame in a windstorm, a goddess who did not promise comfort, a goddess who offered capability. Wisdom, Athena knew, is never proven in silence alone. It must be tested. And so, as generations of mortals rose and fell beneath the turning sky, Athena's influence moved from quiet guidance into deliberate trial. She began to shape stories, not as entertainment, but as lessons. Heroes would become the vessels through which her values were measured, praised, or corrected. The age of heroes was not an accident. It was a crucible. Athena watched mortals reach for greatness again and again, and she understood a truth the other gods often ignored. Strength reveals character only when it is challenged. Comfort produces little insight. Struggle, however, exposes what a person truly values. This is why Athena's favor often came with difficulty. She did not smooth the road. She taught her chosen ones how to walk it. Among all mortals, Athena held particular regard for those who balanced courage with thought. She was not impressed by reckless bravery. She admired restraint, the ability to pause, to consider, to choose the least destructive path when every instinct screamed for action. This admiration found its clearest expression in her bond with Odysseus. Odysseus was not born destined for glory. He was not the strongest king, nor the most beloved. His mind, however, was restless and flexible. Where others saw obstacles, Odysseus saw puzzles. Where others charged forward, he waited, listened, and planned. Athena recognized him immediately. During the long years of war at Troy, Athena did not simply protect Odysseus, she sharpened him. She tested his patience, challenged his assumptions, and rewarded his adaptability. The famous wooden horse was not merely a trick. It was the embodiment of Athena's philosophy. Victory through intelligence, not excess bloodshed. Yet even Odysseus was not exempt from correction. When pride crept into his voice, when he boasted too loudly of his cleverness, Athena withdrew. She let consequences teach what words could not. Storms delayed him. Monsters threatened him. Loneliness pressed upon him until he remembered humility. Athena's guidance was never unconditional. It was earned repeatedly. Beyond the battlefield, Athena's influence shaped another realm just as important as war: justice. In the ancient world, justice was fragile. Laws were young. Revenge often masqueraded as fairness. Blood debts passed from father to son like heirlooms. Athena understood that no civilization could endure if justice remained a cycle of retaliation. And so she intervened in one of the most pivotal moments of moral transformation in myth: the trial of Orestes. Orestes stood accused of killing his own mother, an act driven by obligation, grief, and divine command. The old laws demanded blood for blood. The Furies, ancient spirits of vengeance, rose to claim him. Their logic was simple and merciless. Crime must be answered with punishment, endlessly. Athena saw the danger in this thinking. If justice never evolved, humanity would be trapped forever in violence disguised as righteousness. So Athena did something unprecedented. She created a court. Rather than allowing the gods to decide through force or fear, Athena called upon citizens to judge. She listened to arguments. She weighed intention against action. And when the votes were evenly split, Athena cast the deciding one, not to erase guilt, but to move justice forward. This moment marked a turning point. Justice became deliberation, not instinct. Law became reason, not rage. The Furies were not destroyed. Athena did not silence them. Instead, she transformed them, giving them a new role as guardians of lawful order rather than agents of endless vengeance. Even ancient powers, Athena believed, could evolve. This was wisdom at its most daring. Change without annihilation. Athena's court was more than a mythic event. It was a reflection of her deepest belief that societies survive not by denying darkness, but by understanding and directing it. Her relationship with mortals, however, was not always patient. Athena was intolerant of arrogance, especially when it masqueraded as talent. Artists who claimed to surpass the gods, rulers who dismissed counsel, warriors who mocked planning, all invited her attention. Athena did not punish impulsively. She observed first, waiting to see if humility would appear on its own. When it did not, she acted. Her corrections were precise, often symbolic. She believed lessons remembered longest were the ones woven into experience. To those who confused skill with superiority, she demonstrated the difference. Yet for every warning tale, there were countless quiet moments of encouragement. A young woman weaving late into the night, discovering patterns she didn't know she could create. A soldier learning when not to strike. A leader realizing that listening can be stronger than commanding. Athena thrived in these moments. She did not seek worship rooted in fear. She preferred respect born of understanding. Her presence in Athens grew stronger with each generation. The city reflected her contradictions, brilliant yet divided, ambitious yet anxious, capable of democracy and disaster alike. Athena did not idealize the city. She accepted it as a work in progress. That acceptance was rare among gods. While others demanded perfection or obedience, Athena allowed room for failure, as long as failure led to learning. She believed that growth required error, but only when error was examined rather than denied. This philosophy shaped Athenian culture itself. Debate flourished. Drama explored moral complexity. Philosophy questioned even the gods. Athena did not silence these voices. She protected them. To question wisely was not blasphemy to Athena. It was devotion. Still, Athena's detachment from emotion sometimes made her seem distant. She did not weep easily. She did not indulge in romance. Her love was expressed through mentorship, through protection that strengthened rather than sheltered. Some mortals misunderstood this. They wanted miracles, not guidance. They wanted success without effort. Athena offered none of that. When she refused, they accused her of coldness. But Athena was not cold. She was focused. She understood that indulgence weakens, clarity strengthens. Among the gods, Athena's role became increasingly essential. Zeus relied on her counsel more often than he admitted. When thunder alone could not solve a problem, wisdom was required. Athena became the quiet voice in moments when brute force would have fractured the world. She rarely took center stage. She did not need to. Her influence spread like roots beneath stone, unseen, holding everything together. Yet Athena was not without inner conflict. She carried the knowledge that wisdom often isolates. To see clearly is to see limits. To anticipate outcomes is to watch mistakes unfold that could have been avoided. Athena bore this awareness silently. She could guide, she could warn, but she could not force understanding. Mortals and gods still chose their own paths. That was the cost of wisdom. Athena accepted it. She continued to stand watch over cities and mines, over courts and battlefields, over workshops and libraries. Her owl remained awake at night, symbol of vigilance when others slept. Her olive tree continued to grow, patient and enduring, outlasting kings and wars alike. Athena did not promise a perfect world. She offered a thoughtful one. And in a universe ruled by passion, power, and pride, that offer was revolutionary. Wisdom does not prevent tragedy. This was a truth Athena understood more deeply than most, and it weighed upon her more heavily with time. The longer she watched the world unfold, the clearer it became that intelligence alone could not shield mortals from suffering. It could only determine what came after. And sometimes, what came after was shaped by choices even Athena herself questioned. Among the stories most often whispered in temples and marketplaces alike was the story of Medusa, a name that carried fear, pity, and confusion in equal measure. Mortals argued over it, poets reshaped it. Athena never corrected them, because the truth was complicated. Medusa had once been a mortal woman, known for her beauty and her devotion. In one version of the myth, she served within Athena's sacred space, bound by vows of respect and restraint. Athena valued this devotion. Sacred spaces, to her, were not about exclusion, but about intention. They were places where clarity mattered. When that clarity was shattered, the consequences rippled outward. Different tellings placed blame in different hands, and Athena herself was never eager to preserve a single version. What mattered was not the spectacle of transformation, but the lesson that followed. Medusa became a being whose gaze turned others to stone, a living embodiment of terror and isolation. To mortals, this seemed like cruelty. To Athena, it was a warning etched into myth. When sacred boundaries are violated, the damage spreads far beyond the moment itself. The world does not reset. It adapts. Athena did not celebrate Medusa's fate. She did not parade it as justice. She allowed the story to exist because it reflected something uncomfortable and true. That wisdom cannot always undo harm, only redirect its meaning. And meaning, Athena believed, was the heart of survival. It was Athena who later guided Perseus, not with bloodlust, but with caution. She did not send him to Medusa's lair blindly. She armed him not with rage, but with reflection, a shield polished to a mirror's clarity. He would not face horror directly. He would understand it sideways, indirectly, with awareness. Even in Medusa's end, Athena insisted on intelligence over brutality. From Medusa's remains emerged symbols of enduring power, proof that even endings could birth consequences beyond expectation. Athena did not erase Medusa from the world. She integrated her story into something larger, placing Medusa's image upon her own aegis, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Wisdom carries memory. Athena's relationship with heroes continued to evolve as the age of myth pressed onward. She guided some closely, tested others from afar, and withdrew entirely from those who refused to learn. Her patience was great, but not infinite. Heroes who listened grew stronger in subtle ways. Heroes who ignored counsel often survived only to regret it. This pattern repeated itself across generations. What made Athena distinct was her refusal to romanticize heroism. She did not glorify destruction, even when it achieved victory. She believed that the cost of action mattered as much as its outcome. A city saved at the price of its soul was not saved at all. This belief put Athena at odds with gods who valued spectacle over sustainability. Yet mortals continued to turn toward her. Artisans dedicated their work to her name, believing skill itself was sacred. Philosophers invoked her not as a muse, but as a standard, an ideal of thought sharpened by discipline. Soldiers prayed to her before battle, not for frenzy, but for clarity in chaos. Athena became something rare among gods, a symbol of responsibility. Her presence in Athens reflected this role. The city was restless, often divided by ambition and ideology. Democracy itself was fragile, dependent on reason rather than force. Athena did not guarantee its success. She did not shield Athens from its mistakes, but she remained present, watching, guiding where she could. When Athens flourished, it was because its people argued instead of attacked. When it faltered, it was often because pride drowned out wisdom. Athena accepted both outcomes as part of growth. Even as empires rose and fell beyond Greece, Athena's ideals traveled with them. Her symbols appeared on shields far from Athens, her stories told in foreign tongues. She was less a territorial goddess and more a transferable principle. Wherever thought mattered, Athena followed. Among the gods, her role became quieter but more essential with time. Zeus still ruled. Hera still guarded the throne. Poseidon still stirred the seas. But Athena remained the one consulted when decisions threatened to unravel everything. She was not always obeyed. She did not expect to be. Athena knew that wisdom cannot force agreement. It can only offer perspective. As the heroic age waned, Athena's focus shifted subtly. Less toward individual champions, more toward institutions, courts, schools, councils, traditions. She understood that lasting change required structures, not saviors. Heroes died. Ideas endured. This was Athena's long game. She watched generations forget lessons and relearn them. She watched cities rise on the bones of older ones. She watched mortals argue about justice, truth, and meaning. The same arguments, reshaped by new voices. And she stayed. Not as a ruler, not as a tyrant, but as a presence, steady, observing, waiting for minds ready to listen. Athena's wisdom did not fade with the end of mythic ages. It simply changed form. It lived on in questions asked late at night, in debates that refused easy answers, in the stubborn belief that thought could improve the world. Her owl still watches in silence. Her olive tree still grows, slow and resilient. And Athena, goddess of wisdom, remains what she has always been, not the loudest voice in the room, but the one worth hearing.